Emerging from the veil, Atropos reports signals from across the Hansa, asking for the group's status. Despite there being fewer who returned, Independent Pilot Solutions reported success. The elder sister was no longer a threat. Soon, the greatest minds in the Hansa joined together to solve the riddle that was unification. What was once 9 pieces became one once again. The Queen in Darkness, now wanting to simply be known as Matriarch, had 2 requests. First, seek peace and not disunity, and second, do not seek her out. Her time disintegrated allowed her to see the damage that she had caused humanity, and she did not want to do that again. With that, she was gone, and so too was the veil. The unveiling, as it would later be called, marked a pivotal moment in Hanseatic history. In the wake of their Holy Crusade and subsequent revelations about the Lady, the Ecclesia had a crisis. The few dissident priests attempted reformations. However, these reformations did little to stem the tide of popular discontent. Over time, the Ecclesia shifted from a religious institution into a secular humanitarian effort. The vast wealth and resources they had gathered over the centuries did not go to waste in helping the Hansa and its neighbors prosper. With the change in government and the unveiling, the Zagain were left without a purpose. No longer did they need to stand as wardens between 2 worlds. Over the decades, they tried many things to find their role, but instead settled on stealing a page from Albatross and voyaging out into the deep blackness rather than settle. They reasoned, if Matriarch can appear here, others like her could appear elsewhere. That calling became the new centerpiece of their culture, and across the area around the Hansa, the word Zagain became synonymous with protector. For their part, the Circle of Nine would vanish from the physical world, never to be seen again. Rumors of their existence would persist into the Windish Navy, and sailors would swear, when engagements with pirates seemed hopeless, Circle of Nine ships would arrive from the void and reinforce the beleaguered ships. But those reports were never confirmed. Erhard Haslam would, along with Temperance, remain the Union's administrator for several more centuries to come. Her reliance on Independent Pilot Solutions, while controversial at the time, proved to be the single greatest accomplishment of her career. Admiral Maston, once the veil was down, went on an unrelenting campaign to quarantine, arrest, and try any remaining purifiers or pirates. With the scales of power tipped in Union's hand with the arrival of Blinkgates, it was only a few years to solve the Windish League's interplanetary crime issues. Maria Venejo would be reassigned shortly after the veil vanished. The Lancers would never see her again, because such is the vastness of the galaxy. However, before she left, she granted them a piece of authentic Martian rock. A memento, she said, of their work in securing the right future for the Hansa. Dr. Rubkin Papka would go on to have a wildly successful career with the Union scientific community. Soon he became essential to the research into the nature of metavolts, their formation, and their decay. He'd make trips back into the Hansa occasionally, but rarely stayed in one place for long. The parthenogenetics, the Sturmbjorn, as the locals called them, that came looking for one of the Lancers would grow into their own independent organization. For the first time, they had been given a place to develop not just weapons, but a people. Pretty soon, they were a dominant voice in Weismar. Perhaps more curious was that the Sturmbjorn never needed to raise an army of their own. In the centuries that followed, rumors grew into legends, and it was said that the very monsters of the sea itself would rise to protect them in need. Perhaps, in some ways, there was truth to the legend, as strange creatures, unlike any seen before the unveiling, were frequently seen circling Sturmbjorn vessels, always watching, always vigilant. While the first Horus cell that the Hansa encountered imploded in their attempts, others would soon come. The Bell, the name for the enigmatic self-replicating station, was often the target of their efforts, and the Union and Windish forces spent a good deal of time swatting away would-be thieves. Huey, Boone, Guar would never quite recover to full capacity. He would stay with his NHPs and lived out the rest of his days with the Tropos as an independent consultant. As time went on, strangely, it was a Tropos that did most of the talking, as the line between Huey's physical and noetic lives became indistinguishable. That said, their work would continue to push the boundaries of human NHP relations across both the Hansa and the Union in ways that others would study for years to come. Nico, Whistler, Saxon, never returned from the Vale. What became of him is a matter of mystery and conspiracy. There are some who say he still exists, still broadcasting to the void, still giving hope to the hopeless. The organization he started did a lot to propagate this myth, expanding their reach alongside Albatross's efforts across the galaxy. What started as a local hobby became a dog whistle for unrelenting pursuit of truth against power. His time in the Hansa had altered Brian Nullpointer Clayton's view on a great many things. Rather than some dangerous cultic influence, Brian had come to see NHPs as valuable partners. Initially staying close to Huey, Clayton eventually left to pursue work elsewhere. Eventually, he sent his goodbyes to Huey and his few other living friends and all but vanished. It was rumored that he joined one of the many radical NHP liberation groups that would rather see NHPs unshackled and truly partnered with, rather than merely used as tools or worshipped as pagan gods. Alec Slice Beth was the other pilot to not return. He had never really had a moment of peace, his life one of deceptions and battles, both internal and external. However, on Fiddler's Green, in Matriarch's interstitial realm, he found what he was looking for. After Unity, there was no fighting, no discord. Leadership here was not martial, but moral. Like putting on a fitted suit for the first time, it didn't feel right, but only because everything else had just been so wrong. Alec Beth would go on to find here the community he had been seeking for so long. Alec Aleph, reborn per the last will and testament of his brother Alec Beth, found himself free. There were no wars to prepare for, no duty that needed to be obliged. Alec was asked to go with Vallejo and, after some consideration, would start working with DOJ HR. Decades later, like his mentor, he would vanish from official records, serving whatever institution exists under the ice of Mars. In the wake of these events, the Windish League would go on to flourish. Soon after they officially joined the Union, now that the Vale was no longer present to obfuscate Blinkgate travel and OmniNet services. Under their guidance, the Hansa region would go on to become a linchpin for local trade, retaining their local identity despite the influx of cosmopolitan and diasporan travelers. Some are alive, some have died, and others still sail the black and starry astral sea. This is but one tell and one telling. Infinite others remain.